Hi there, this is Nick Devine, founder of the Print Coach and developer of the Elephant Hunting System. And what we're going to talk about today is the impact small little changes can have on the overall profitability of your business. So imagine if your printing company was making 4 to 8% net margin, bottom line, and imagine if you could increase the gross margin in your business by 1% to 2%. What difference would that make on your bottom line? For most companies, here's what would happen is the bottom line would go 25% larger really quickly. That's a profound impact. Dave Brailsford, the UK cycling coach and also head of the cycling coach for the Sky team, is known for a concept called the aggregation of marginal gains. It makes a big impact. It has enabled him to take the Sky cycling coach to the top cycling team in the world, and he's also taken, which is fantastic, we live in the UK, right? He's taken the UK cycling team to the #1 position in cycling. We had a fantastic Olympics London 2012. Thanks a lot to Dave Brailsford. So if you think about the Tour de France, if you know anything about that race runs over a period typically of about 23 days, and they ride about 2,200 miles, something like that. And the winners win that race. And we'll look at this data in a couple of minutes. They win it by maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes in total over that total duration. So what we're going to talk about in this video is we'll talk about that concept of the aggregation of marginal gains and how you apply it in your printing company so you can get your bottom line profits up by as much as 25% with small little changes. So let's go look at that now.
What you're looking at here is a picture of Chris Froome. Chris rides, he's a South African, I think, living as a Brit at the moment. Part of the Sky cycling team, and if you followed the Tour de France, you'll know he won the Tour de France in 2013. The Tour de France is a really interesting race. It typically runs over a period of 23 days, and the riders are cycling for 21 of those 23 days. And they cover, in kilometres, about 3,300, 3,400, depending on the route they're taking. Think in miles, it's about 2,100, 2,200. So averaging about 100 miles a day for 21 days riding against the most competitive cyclists on the planet. You really do have to be an elite athlete to compete at that level. What you're looking at up on the top right of the screen there, which says 83, 56, 40, is the hours, minutes and second. Now, that's the total time it took Chris to ride the route in 2013. Now, if you calculate that, it turns out to be 5,036 minutes. So a lot of riding. What you're looking at on the second line is the difference between first and second place. And what you notice is there's a 4-minute difference. So just to give you that mathematically, Chris rode to win 5,036 minutes. Second place rode 5,040 minutes. If you saw that on a bar chart, you could not tell the difference if you were looking at both of them. Minuscule difference between both of them. Dave Brailsford, who coaches the Sky cycling team, uses a term for this. He calls it the aggregation of marginal gains. And what he talks a lot about is, and he's got a system for this, he talks a lot about looking for tiny little edges in lots of little areas that matter. And it's the aggregation of those little edges that's the difference between being first, being third, and being 10th. Who you're looking at here is Cadel Evans. Cadel Evans is another Tour de France winner. He was the first Australian to win the Tour post-World War II, and again a phenomenal elite athlete and still performing very well in the current Tour de France's. So what you're looking at here is the difference between first and second place in Cadel's race. So you'll see 86 hours, 12 minutes and 22 seconds and 86 hours, 13 minutes and 55 seconds. Simple math. Minute and a half difference between first and second place, and that's a world apart in the Tour de France. Nobody wants to be second in the Tour de France. It's fantastic, but it's not first, and in the Tour de France you want to be first. And business is a bit like sports, as we'll talk about in a second. I'm going to show you another interesting piece of comparative data. So this is the difference between first and 10th place in Cadel's race in the Tour de France. But look at this. You'll know the golfer on the right, on the left, Tiger. We all know Tiger. Unless you're an avid golfer, you may not know the golfer on the right. His name is Scott Verplank. Let me show you some data between them. You're going to see a chart on the right where it says 197.28. Percentage difference, that's the scoring difference between both of them in 2009 when I got this piece of data. So minuscule difference. Tiger is about 1.5% or 2% better than Scott. That's in playing ability or results produced. Here's the difference financially between the two of them in the same year. Tiger earned 10.5 million, Scott earned 2 million. Now, 2 million is fantastic, but by being a couple of percent better, you go from 2 million to 10 million. That's again a world apart. That's a whole lifetime's difference right there. So let's just go back to this slide for a sec. So we looked at the Tour de France and we looked at golf, and in fact we could look at any sport base. I've collected this data in a lot of different sports. That we're looking at the difference between Man United and Man City a couple of years back when City won the Premier League championship. And again, it comes down to minuscule differences, and those minuscule differences turn up in all areas of life. And one of the areas they turn up in is in your business. And what you need to look for in your business is not, cricket's a classic example of this. You win by singles, not by the fours and the sixes. And in business, you win by little edges in lots of different little areas in your business. And I want you to do an exercise. I get all of my private clients in our elephant hunting system. We get them to do at some stage go through this exercise, and it makes a big impact. And we're not talking about an impact. It can make an impact of tens of thousands to 100,000 difference on the bottom line, so net profit. So it's a very valuable exercise to go through. And here's what we do is we get them to focus on a number, and I'll talk a sec about some numbers you might want to focus on. We get them to track the results of that one particular number publicly. You can do it on a flip chart page, you can do it on a whiteboard, but you track it over a period of, I get my clients to do it for a minimum of 66 days, which is a 90-day working period. And then you follow up relentlessly on that number. So you continually ask people, how are we doing with that number? So you may ask, what number do we track? And you could track a whole range of numbers. I'll give you some ideas. You might track face-to-face new meetings with new prospects. You might just track face-to-face meetings with any prospects. You might track cross-sales, upsells. You might track the number of referrals you got. You might track your estimate conversion percentage, see if you can improve that. But here's what's going to happen. In the absence of any other change, just the fact that you're measuring it is going to improve the number, because once you start to focus on something relentlessly over an extended period of time, the number starts to improve. So that's what I want you to do. And again, I would warn you here, do not be, not to threaten you, but just a mistake to avoid. Do not be deceived by the simplicity of this exercise. Some of the most effective things you can do in business and any high performance area is focus on some simple things that make big changes. And this one thing makes a big change, and any of my clients will attest to that. Obviously, you've heard me mention before, IPEX is coming up pretty soon. IPEX are the people behind IPEX IR, run another show called the Cross Media Show. It's been running for the last couple of years. This year, which is fantastic, they're co-hosting it at the XL at the exact same time IPEX is on. So you see on the top of the screen there, IPEX is from the 24th to the 29th of March. Cross Media is co-hosted in the same location. It's a different show, but co-hosted in the exact same location 3 of those days, so for the 25th to 27th of March. So you may want to wander along there, and you may want to look at your schedule and see if you can organize your schedule so you're there while the both shows are on at the same time for between the 25th and the 27th of March. And essentially what's going on across media is there'll be a range. It's a fantastic event, actually. I went to the inaugural show a couple of years back. Some very interesting content there. And they're looking at how do you manage, build and deliver cross-media campaigns across different platforms, which is an area people are getting increasingly interested in. So if you can organize your schedule, definitely suggest get down on a date when that's on so you can get a taster of both shows. So you get 2 for the price of 1, as it were, which will be fantastic. I don't know where you're watching this video because it's hosted in a lot of different areas, but you'll notice on the screen down the bottom there where it says theprintcoach.com/6. That's a URL where you can get the handout of some of the critical data we covered and obviously the exercise on that video. So just put in your details on the right hand side when you go to that page. And in the comment, I'm interested in 2 things. Have you ever had the experience of focusing on a particular number before, particularly in the area of business, and what happened? So kind of curious to get some feedback in that. And if you're looking for more information on anything to do with getting teams to perform at a higher level, so how do you optimize the performance of your team, just let me know what your question is in that video comment. So either one of those 2, and we'll try and optimize the next series of videos so we're giving content that our listeners like yourself are after. So go to theprintcoach.com/6, get hold of the handout, give me your comments. We'll be back next week with the next video in the series. Between now and then, have a brilliant day and a fantastic week, and we'll catch up shortly. Bye for now.